Hi everyone, my name's Rebecca and welcome back to My Bookish Travels. Today I'm going to be wrapping up the month of June, and because there's a lot of stuff, let's jump right in. So to begin with, we're going to go through the books that I read, and as always when I do my wrap-ups, I only select the top rated books for the month just so that I'm not going through each book or spending a lot of focus on books that I didn't necessarily enjoy. If you guys are interested in seeing what I've read thus far this year, please feel free in the description box below. You can click my Goodreads link and you can check out my year in books so far, or just my books in general. So the first one that I read in June had actually been lent to me by my older sister, and it is Rising Strong by Brené Brown. This one was a 4 out of 5 star for me. It definitely was one that I didn't rush through. I typically can't rush through reading anything, but when it comes to nonfiction, it's not something that I spend a lot of focus on reading back to back. I do have to put some time between it. And what was interesting was the days that I did choose to pick up Rising Strong and reading, I found what I was reading very applicable to something that I'd gone through that day or something that had happened that week that was just kind of festering. And when I read her book, I found it very interesting how I could process through things that she was sharing in the book, in her writing, and it was very applicable to me at that point in time. So I would definitely recommend, if you're going to read this book, don't go into it expecting to read it back to back. If you definitely can, fantastic, but I don't know if this book is necessarily meant to be read back to back. It's one that may take a little bit of time to read through and process what she's sharing with you information-wise. The second book that I read was an audiobook, and that was The Stolen Boys. My mom and I listened to this series together on Audible. It's narrated by Richard Armitage. This is, and I probably just butchered his last name. He pronounces it different to how my brain is used to pronouncing it, but it is the 5th book in the Jackman and Evans police procedural British novels, and Joy Ellis is brilliant. Every single time my mom and I have listened to one of the stories in this series, we've just been either shocked or surprised, or our emotions are going crazy. She writes very realistically. She gives a lot of humanization to her characters while also portraying the multi-layered mysteries and resolutions very well. Mom and I have been hooked on this series. We really love the audio version of it, and we only listen to them together. We're not allowed to skip and listen alone. It is always together. This is our series and we are loving it so far. This was another 4 out of 5 star for me, and I definitely recommend, if you guys are interested in checking these out, the best way I can describe it is, if you like Clue, but you're also looking for a more realistic Clue that has very many players and layers and all of that jazz, this is definitely the series for you. The next book that I read was Twisted Vines by January James. This was my only 5-star read for the month. Now, I am on her ARC team, and I was given a free ARC of this story in exchange for my honest thoughts. And guys, did she do amazing on this. So I do have a full non-spoiler and spoiler review on my channel. You can go in the description box and follow that link, and it will take you through to go and watch that. I had certain things that I wanted to see happen in this second one with regards to some specifics. I wanted to see a little bit more development, or I wanted to see it be a bit more of a prominent situation, and January James did it. She gave me everything that I wanted, and I didn't know that she was going to, but I feel like she heard me and was like, I got you, girl. And she did. She came back swinging. It was absolutely brilliant, and so many shock factors that happened in this one book. And I'm not going to say anything more than that. If you guys haven't read it, the first one is already out and you can go and read it. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think it might actually be part of your Prime reading. So if you've got the Kindle Unlimited, I think it's part of that. If you want to read it, I highly recommend check it out. It was so good and so worth your money, and I had to immediately go out and purchase the physical copy of the book because it was so good. And the final book that I want to mention, another 4-star read, it was Seductively Yours. So this was, I think, the second time I read this book, and it was so good. If you guys have not read Harlequin romance mangas, it literally just gives you like all of the surface level information. It's less than 200 pages usually, and it's so well done. The emotions that come through off the artwork, beautiful. I can't be the only one who reads these, but I feel like I don't know anyone else who spends the money to read these. They're so worth the investment, and usually they run between like $7.99 to $9.99 for the book. And for me, I find it very worth the price because the story and art together, beautiful. But this one follows our two main characters. The female has just moved to town and needs assistance in getting her home up and running and livable. Our main male lead had an accident either a short while ago or a longer bit ago, and he no longer can function as a pilot because of that accident and has become a bit of a loner and antisocial. And he is basically exchanging favors. So he's going and doing work on her house, and she's coming in and doing housekeeping for him. And it's just so adorably cute. I haven't had a 4-star Harlequin manga in a while, and this one was so adorably cute. Moving on to some podcasts, I have two that I want to share with you guys. The first one is a Spotify original, and that is Batman Unburied. So this one is a bit of an AU. We have Bruce Wayne working in the morgue of his parents' hospital, and he is in the midst of trying to look into this case that's come to light. Now, it doesn't appear that Batman's connected. I haven't finished this podcast yet, but what I can tell you is I feel like by the time I finish it, I'm going to need a little bit of a break from these originals that Spotify are producing with like DC and Marvel, because this one is so interesting and quite dark, and I have no idea where they're going to go next, because what the heck, guys, this is the craziest podcast I feel like I have listened to dealing with our DC Marvel world. So if you haven't listened to it, highly recommend, go and check it out. So the second one that I want to share with you guys is called Read Me Romance. This is definitely meant more for the adult audience. It is hosted by the duo that write as Alexa Riley, and they produce either stories they themselves have written or that other authors have written and granted permission to put on the channel. And it's literally just romances, short romance stories that are narrated and shared that way. So you don't have to pay for it. It is free, unless you want to subscribe to contribute funds or you want to purchase them from the site. But for the most part, this is definitely leaning more towards the adult listeners. For myself, I haven't had a lot of them that have really been ones that I definitely have enjoyed. I like a little bit more storyline to the works that I listen to, and this one feels like it's delving more towards the adult side, where there doesn't seem to feel like there's a lot of storyline to them. I'm still near the beginning of the actual podcast, so that could be the case. But I also know that a lot of the earlier podcast episodes aren't actually there any longer. I'm not sure what happened, why they were removed or anything like that, but I think one of the earlier episodes I was listening to, they said this was like their 8th season. And if that's the case, then there's like 7 seasons that are just not showing any longer anywhere online or through apps for listening to be able to listen to those earlier audiobooks. So June was definitely the start of me slipping into a reading slump. And the reason why I know that I was slipping into a reading slump is because I started watching a lot more movies and TV shows. So let's jump into the movies first, and then we'll go over to discussing the TV shows. So the first movie that I ended up rewatching with my mom in June was The Flintstones, and I remember really liking this movie when I was younger. Watching it now that I'm older, I realized that there's a lot of double entendres and a lot of stuff that definitely went over my head as a child that were more adult themed in this movie than I remember. So that was interesting. But as always, I really feel like this was a very well done live action for The Flintstones. The next one I watched was My Fault on Amazon Prime, and I really enjoyed this. This book to movie adaptation was very well done. I have not read the book yet, so don't shoot me if you're like, I've read the book, the movie sucks. I thought they did a really good job on the movie. I think that the acting, the writing, the cinematography, and just the locations they filmed in, beautifully done. And I'm very excited. They also recently announced that they are producing the second book into a movie. I don't know who is doing their scripts or the decisions for which book to movie they're doing, but guys, whoever that person is deserves a raise because they are on point with what they're producing. And the third and final movie that I ended up watching in June, I rewatched To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I feel like this one's just going to be so timeless. Like, I always find at times I will come back to watching this movie and it always feels like the first time and so applicable at whatever time I'm watching it. It's so well done and I love their cast that they created and it's just so good. I can't deny that this was such an amazing book to movie adaptation. I love that we're getting really good adaptations right now. Like all of a sudden they're realizing there is a massive audience of readers and they could, if they do a really good job, it's gonna work. They're gonna bring in money, they're gonna bring in revenue. They've got a ready-made audience with us. Like, just don't screw us over with the adaptation you do. Moving on to TV shows. So Netflix decided at the end of June they were removing the Lethal Weapon TV show. And my mom and I had to power through season 1, season 2, and season 3 before the end of June. So that was interesting because we were only maybe like 8 episodes into season 1 at the start of June. And we were like, no, this is happening. So that was very interesting, but I do have some points of frustration with this TV show. But I have to say that if you guys watched season 1 and you left it at that, like it was so well done for season 1. Like very well done, very on point. And I loved how the main 2 actors for Martin Riggs and for Murtaugh, they did a really good job changing it from being those iconic characters that Danny Glover and Mel Gibson played, and they made them their own. And I really, really appreciated them doing that because if they had tried to be them, it wouldn't have worked. But with the slight changes that they made and how they, oh, so good. The next thing that I watched was the unaired pilot for The Selection, which I regret doing now. But because I regret doing it, I'm going to let you guys have your own autonomy in choosing. So I found it here uploaded on YouTube. If it's still available, I will link in the description box below the link to go and watch that unaired pilot. Guys, it was horrible. When I state that I am so glad that that got cut before it even went to the cutting floor, yeah, it was not pleasant. And I don't know who made certain decisions that they had made for it. It didn't work, guys. It did not work. Like, what the heck? I don't even know. I should do a whole video of me like sitting down and discussing all the things wrong with this pilot. Maybe I will. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments. Do you want me to do a full like dish review of the unaired pilot? Maybe I should. Maybe I should just do like a video of like 10 things wrong with it and try to narrow it down. I don't know. Anyway, I went and I watched that and I regret it. I sincerely regret it. But as a pick-me-up, I did watch season 1 of The Summer I Turned Pretty, and it was so beautifully shot, guys. I am in love with the cinematography for that opening for The Summer I Turned Pretty. It's beautiful. It's going to be iconic. And I have not watched any of season 2 because I am at the stage where I want it to be fully released so I can binge through the whole season and then I can weep over the fact that I have to wait for the 3rd one to be filmed and cut and produced before I can watch it. So yeah, I will either torture myself sooner or I will torture myself at a later date and do that. But I haven't watched season 2. I'm being really good holding off, but season 1 was beautiful, guys. And lastly, I discovered a really cool app that I want to share with you guys, and you may like me or hate me after I mention it, but it is called Real Short, and I'll try to like link it up here for you guys to see for like the picture. But they produce short clips, and by the end of it, you've watched like an entire movie. And they're hit and miss. There are some that are very good, and there are some that are not so good. But if you guys are interested in checking it out, definitely check that out and let me know what you think. Also, I do want to share one board game that I played that's a new game for me in the month of June. It's called Pandemic. It's been out for a number of years. I ended up getting a hold of it because my older sister and brother played it and they really enjoyed it. So the way that Pandemic works is you kind of have to work individually but also as a team to stop the spread of this world pandemic. And if you think that sounds familiar, I will tell you that playing the game definitely like triggered certain things from 2020 for me. But I actually found it very fun as an individual collective game to play and would definitely play it again. I thought it was very interesting. And I think that if you're playing with somebody who knows what they're doing, so for myself, I was playing it with, I call them my second family, the youngest son. I was playing with him. He knew what he was doing, and I was kind of learning as I went. And we actually didn't really struggle with trying to actually understand the game, and we won. We stopped the pandemic, where in a way it felt very like easy. It didn't feel as complicated as we thought it would be. But I would definitely play that again. And I feel like it's interesting to play with somebody who has no idea what they're going into after living through 2020. Because this was created like a number of years. Like it won awards in 2016, like on the cover. I don't know if the picture I find will have that, but yeah, it won awards in 2016 for how inventive it was. All right, and finally, let's move on to some updates. So goals, I have 3 that I want to share with you guys. Number 1, my reading through the Bible in a year. I am still behind. Apparently, when I got behind in May, I'm just struggling to get like my groove back on reading timely fashion so that I'm not falling further behind. But for some reason, I'm still struggling on that. So we'll see. The next one is my Goodreads update at the end of June. I was actually 7 books ahead of schedule, which is kind of fancy. It means that if I stay on that track, that I could potentially finish my Goodreads goal early, which means that I could try to finish one of my larger, chunkier books that takes me forever to read, i.e. Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Moving on though to my 3rd and final general goal update, my Dutch language practice. It's moving along. I'm feeling a little bit more like I can carry on a small conversation where I make sense and I understand what's being said, but I still am so self-conscious that I think if somebody was just to randomly say something to me in Dutch, I would freak out and not answer them and forget all of the words. So I think whatever that stage is, that's the stage I'm at right now. Moving on to just some other updates to share with you guys. The first one is at the start of June, I did spend the first week out of town for work. And that Saturday, my mom, my older sister, and I went to a women's Bible conference, and we spent the day at that conference, and I just felt like it was such an edifying day. It was really nice to spend time with other women and just to kind of be immersed in that discussion. So their topic this year at the conference that I went to was value. How do you value yourself? How does God value you? How do you value others? How do you value your time? And I just found that that was really interesting because I don't think we necessarily put a lot of focus on that value factor. We value money, we value what we can buy with it, we value going and spending time with people, but we don't necessarily look at value when it comes to ourselves. How do we value ourselves? So that was really interesting for their topic and kind of the different messages that they brought on the stage with regards to that. The next thing was there was actually a weekend where we had all of us in the same location, and it was really nice. So I'm the 4th of 5 kids, and the last time that all 5 of us were together with my mom was within the first year of my dad passing. So, you know, a lot of us got together for, you know, the 1-year anniversary of his passing. We got together for the first Christmas after he passed. So we kind of came together during that time because it was times where we struggled, right? We were missing him. And this was a different time for us. This was us getting together just to spend time with each other and just enjoy each other's company. I would love to share a picture because I think my siblings are adorable and lovely and the most beautiful humans you can meet in the world. But I don't think that they would appreciate me putting their picture on the internet, so I'm not going to do that. But when it comes to my siblings, it was just so nice getting to see everyone together. It was actually the first time my niece met my younger brother because he lives completely in a different part of the province than the rest of us. And it was his first time getting to see her, and just seeing my older brother, her father, and my niece both getting like very excited to see him and just connecting with him after so long. It was so beautiful. On the 24th of June, I did book the appointment to go in and get my ears pierced. So I booked it 2 weeks ahead of time. As you can see, I do have them pierced now. And they're not the studs in anymore. I've got actual earrings in. I did do a little like short for the day that I got my ears pierced. I did have to age restrict it because it shows them being pierced slightly. I'll link in the description box below if you want to go and watch. Just know it is age restricted. So if you can't watch it, YouTube preferred it to be age restricted based on the content. And finally, my mom and I actually went and saw a kids production of 101 Dalmatians, and it was so adorably cute. Best 45 minutes I've ever spent in a theater. I don't know if the kids were like fully reading through the script or if some of it was lip synced. I don't care. It was so amazingly produced. And my favorite character, which I never thought I would say this, was actually Cruella de Vil. The little girl playing Cruella de Vil did a superb job. And you could just tell all of the kids had so much fun with this story and with their acting and everything. It was brilliant. And that's kind of how I wrapped up June. So how was your guys' June? Was it good? I know it's been a bit since, June happened, but for me, I enjoyed my June. Even though I was slipping into my reading slump, it was really nice to just spend some time doing some other things aside from reading. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you in my next one, and until then, stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you then. Bye!